I accidentally discovered my strict college professor's dirty little secret. My professor has been driving me out of my mind all semester, and it's not just because I have a huge crush on her. I know it's ridiculous to have such an intense crush on my professor who has to be maybe 20 years older than me, but I haven't been able to control myself since the first time I laid eyes on her. She has this beautiful messy bun which as she enters the room, she opens her hair and they falling down, and I can only admit to the internet that she makes me blush just by calling on me in class. I have had crushes on all of my history teachers before her, and maybe it's just because she happens to be an Egyptologist instead of a typical historian, but she's effing irresistible to me. Before you judge me, she doesn't wear a wedding ring and has never mentioned having a family. See, the only reason I've had such an obsession when it comes to my past history professors is because I love what they teach. Ever since I was a kid, I've loved reading history books about battle formations and legendary warlords. So when I'm sitting in a classroom listening to an attractive woman speak knowledgeably about topics I'm so passionate about, some wires just cross in my brain and body, and I fall head over heels for them every time. But Professor Olivia is something else. I have never had a teacher who has taught me so many new details and facts about eras I've been learning about for years. It doesn't help that she has this soft voice and those beautiful dimples whenever she smiles. I think my crush would have faded in time just like all my other ones in the past, but my professor seemed to take a weird liking to me, but not in the way I wanted. After Professor Olivia noticed that I raised my hand more than any other student and never missed the extra credit portion on an assignment, she offered to do an independent study with me. I would meet her in her office once a week for private lectures on any topic of my choice as long as I wrote research papers on each lecture she designed just for me. It was a steamy intellectual intimacy like I had never felt before, and it made my body weak to be sitting there in front of Professor Olivia as she explained ancient Egyptian medicine to me with stars in her eyes. I've wanted her for months, but she has been nothing but polite and professional to me. She assigns me more work than anyone in the class and asks for regular meetings to discuss my work, but I've never caught her even taking a second glance at me. I felt my lust in secret. I would think of Professor Queen during Tinder hookups, and I knew my insane crush was only growing. As the end of the semester closed in, I started to realize that soon my time with Professor Olivia would be over for good. It had been a tough week, and I wanted to make my research paper to Professor Olivia extra polished. So I ended up going over it again and again until eventually I noticed something strange. My word count was off. I checked it 1 billion times, but my document kept saying there more words than I had written. I didn't solve the mystery until I highlighted every word in the doc and tried to change the font. That's what finally revealed a secret message typed at the bottom of my research paper. I was dumbfounded, but after I read the message, I had to hold the edge of my desk to keep from fainting. The message said I loved you in that tight little skirt today. The same day I had written the paper, I wore a short to Professor Olivia's private lecture. At first, I told myself I was delusional. I had to be. So I checked to an access to the doc and sure enough, it was Professor Olivia and Olivia alone. My heart gutted in my chest as I realized she was the only one who could have left the naughty message, and I felt 1,000 emotions in my chest at once. I wanted her. Of course, I did. But to read her words so direct, so inappropriate, I knew it was wrong, but it felt so effing right. I snapped out of my wild daydreams for a second to check the rest of the private research papers I had written for Professor Olivia. My heart stopped beating in my chest and fell right to my stomach when I slowly discovered each and every one of the dirty messages that Professor Olivia had been leaving in white text at the bottom of each of my papers. They had to be written from her. She would reference chains I would wear to her lectures and would constantly point out what outfits she likes me best in. There were a few messages where she detailed how she wanted to take me right there in her office and listed everything she would do to me. Just reading those messages had me sweating, and I've never wanted anyone more in my entire life. I never knew it was possible to crave somebody like this. I need her on me like I need water, like I need food and warmth. I want her more than anything. And now I finally know that she wants me too.